வணக்கம், நமஸ்காரம், Sai salutations and loving adorations to one and all. This is Guru Deva. I am starting with my early morning insightful meditations with the Guru Sostras. All of you join together and let us chant together. Om Shri Sadguru Paramatmane Namaha. Om Shri Sadguru Bhagavan Sivanandaya Namaha. Om Shri Sadguru Bhagavan Dayanandaya Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Mageshwaraha. Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dhyana Moolam Gurur Murti Puja Moolam Gurur Padam. Mantra Moolam Gurur Vakyam Moksha Moolam Guru Kripa. Moksha Moolam Bhagavan Shivananda Kripa. Moksha Moolam Bhagavan Dayananda Kripa. Om Brahmanandam Paramasugatam Kevalam Jnana Murtim Dvandhadidam Gagana Sadusham Tattva Machadi Lakshiyam Egam Nityam Vimalachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bodham Bhavadidam Tirigunarakidam Sadgurum Tam Namami Chaitanyam Shashwaram Shantam Vyomadidam Niranjanam Nadavindu Kaladidam Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Anyana Timirandasya Jnana Jnana Salakaya Shakshuram Milidam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Anyana Molaharanam Janma Karma Nivaranam Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartam Guru Padodaham Vipet Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyabdam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Takshiram Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Om Namah Shivaya Guruve Satchidananda Murtaye Nishparamanjaya Shantaya Niralambaya Dejase Nitya Suttam Nirabhasam Niraharam Niranjanam Nitya Bodham Chitanandam Guru Brahma Namamyaham Isvaro Gururatmedi Murti Veda Vivagini Vyomavat Vyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Nidage Sarva Vidyanam Vajase Bavarohinam Guruve Sarvalohanam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmat Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Dakshinamurti Samarambam Dayananda Madhyamam Asmat Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Mangalam Yogi Varyaya Mahaniya Gunaptaye Gangadhira Nivasaya Swami Sivanandaya Mangalam Om Mangalam Yogi Varyaya Mahaniya Gunaptaye Kaveri Tira Nivasaya Swami Dayanandaya Mangalam Om Shri Sadguru Deva Ki Jai. Dear fellow seekers after truth, today's topic is self-development towards perfection based on the teachings of His Holiness Swami Venkatesananda Maharaj as well as Sadguru Swami Sivananda Maharaj. Divine life is divinizing our entire life, all our activities. We cannot be saints for an hour of the day and sinners for the rest of the day. Our masters therefore plead for integral perfection. They exhort us to combine all the spiritual practices in our daily life and ensure that we have a balanced spiritual diet which enable us to grow harmoniously into perfect personality. Theoretically, it is supposed to be sufficient to deal a fatal blow of the ego with the acts of the yoga that is suited to one's temperament. Even the so-called different yogas or paths to God realization are not really so different or exclusive. A close examination reveals that they are all interconnected. Activity, Karma Yoga. Activity without the love of the omnipresent God, Bhakti Yoga. And knowledge of the truth, Jnana Yoga. Or the latter. Without right activity is nearly impossible. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga are interconnected. They are inseparable and cannot be independently practiced. The emphasis differs in accordance with the difference of individual temperament. If there is God at heart, Islam must flow in and through all our limbs. If there is knowledge of God in the head, it must compel us to love Him too. Head, heart, and hand must respond to God love. The Indian spiritual aspirant is an optimist. He knows that without purification he cannot get God realization. You know that Karma Yoga, which implies multiplicity, a finger cannot scratch itself. And Bhakti Yoga, which implies duality. And Jnana, direct, divine, intuitive realization of oneness, which asserts unity, are rationally incomparable, and yet he practices them together. He does not understand the Upanishads, but read them daily. When the heart is purified through Karma Yoga and the mind is steadied by Bhakti Raja Yoga, then the knowledge of the Upanishads illumines his soul. Perfection is a synthesis of all yogas. Raja Yoga studies the mind and Jnana Yoga pours wisdom into it. Feeling is perfected by Bhakti Yoga. Living is perfected by Karma Yoga. The instrument with which we are able to practice yoga, the body, is looked after by Hatha Yoga. All these together constitute yoga. They are inseparable, even as the three faculties, thinking, feeling, and living, are inseparable in us. In this self-development towards perfection, no one can help you and no one can hinder you either. There are two reasons. This perfection is already there, waiting to be discovered. And secondly, you are unique. No one has the exact replica of your personality. A sculptor, looking at a marble slab, sees the figure of Shiva or Krishna in that slab. He does not add anything. It is there already. But there is a lot more marble in addition to that figure. He merely removes the extraneous chips And what remains is what he saw in the slab in the first instant. First, you have to see this unique spirit that is built into you. When you do, you also see a lot of rubbish, waste material sticking to this central being. As you keep eliminating this waste material, the latent perfection is discovered and there is total development. In order to discover yourself, you must not assume there is only goodness in you. You must also be aware of what is diabolical and what is devilish in you too. When you thus become aware of the divine and the diabolical in you, simultaneously you know what to do. To ascribe the cause of an inner evil to something outside oneself is immature. If you cut your foot on the coral, you immediately fix it. There is no time to blame anyone. You become one with the problem, the pain, and the pain demands immediate relief. When you thus observe yourself inwardly, there is utter stillness of mind. It is transparent. And in the transparent mind, you can see the play of thoughts. You can be aware of the evil in your personality. You learn actively to watch the thoughts without thinking those thoughts. When this watchfulness or awareness becomes constant and efficient, keen and sensitive, it detects an evil thought even as it enters the field of consciousness and keep it away because the evil thought hurts the inner being. While cultivating this watchfulness or awareness, the question one asks concerning the thought, what is this thought made of? And who thinks it? And not why it is there. If you ask the questions in the right manner, you will know the answer immediately and experientially, not verbally. The asking itself is the answer. The questioning is important, for it directs the attention to the very source of thought. When an undesired or evil thought arises from this source, this attention itself neutralizes such thought. In this self-inquiry, there are two delicate factors to be carefully, vigilantly borne in mind. There is unrelenting vigilance, which burns steadily within you, reduces to ashes every evil or undesired thought, even as it arises, because such a thought hurts you. And when your mind becomes aware of similar evil outside in others, you are extremely sympathetic, for you do not judge or condemn. What is that state of perfection that the self-inquiry reveals, and what are its characteristics? The Bhagavad Gita provides an inspiring answer. Perfection is that state in which all cravings end. It is there all the time, but you have turned away from it. When you turn away from the sun, you see the shadow, and the shadow has all the appearance of yourself. But when you wheel around and face the light, and you see only the sun, the light, and not yourself, that is God realization. That is self-realization. That is perfection. That was Bhagavad Gita talk about it. The whole process of yoga Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Hatha Yoga of spiritual development is a removal of obstacle to this realization. In order to see these obstacles, one needs a tremendously calm mind. Quietness of the mind does not mean that there are no thoughts. There may be millions of waves on the surface of the ocean, but underneath it is absolutely calm. Can you go down to the depth of the ocean within you, the depth of your own consciousness, so that even the thoughts keep rising and falling on the surface? There is this deep calm and peace. This is the most important things as parents. Disturbance in the mind goes on as long as you cling to false values, to any values at all. When you directly realize that nothing that the mind and the ego have cherished so far is of any value, there is instant, complete, and permanent cessation of disturbance. There is enlightenment. His Holiness Sadguru Swami Sivananda Ji Maharaj asks us to reflect and analyze ourselves to understand our capacities and limitations, our hidden potentialities and lurking weaknesses, and then formulate a spiritual plan for self-discovery. We know a lot, but do little. Idle knowledge is more dangerous than ignorance, for it adds to our vanity. If you know a little and put that into practice, we shall liberate ourselves. Even our self-analysis, introspection, and its resultant examination are validated only by their application in practice. Based on our understanding of our need, we are to take a few resolves that will assume the form of a determination to grow in virtue, to eradicate evil habits, to do a little various spiritual practices like a yoga asanas, breathing exercises, meditations, study, charity, worship, japa, kirtan, karma yoga, selfless service, and satsanga, association with the wise. Then we should draw up a little routine incorporating all this in it. Even if you do a little of each item of yoga practice, if you are regular, you can achieve a lot. There is often a human tendency to make a big resolutions, do something for a few days, and then to let the zeal cool off. To prevent this, Swami Sivananda Ji gives us a priceless companion, the spiritual diary. In it, we record to what extent we are able to carry out our resolutions and to what extent we neglected the daily routine. Of course, none of those is meaningful if it is undertaken as a gimmick or in obedience to the dictates of someone else or a proud records of one's spiritual progress. Genuine sincerity is needed for real, natural, and spectacular progress. Only the insincere man grumbles and finds difficulties. If he has sincerity at heart, there is no impossibility and difficulties are accepted as necessary challenges. The sincere man converts obstacles into stepping stones. The insincere man regards stepping stones as obstacles. On the path of yoga, what is needed is sincerity. And if you are sincere and earnest, then the path is smooth. Sincerity itself is the only inner expression of the correct scale of values. We are sincerely devoted to only that which we value. Otherwise, we treat it as a hard labor. If you value anything, you want to do it and love doing it. If you do not value it, your mind magnifies only the difficulties involved. As a proof of sincerity, the ancient masters looked for what are known as the four means of salvation, which every aspirant is encouraged to cultivate. These four means: discrimination, the recognition of the proper scale of values; dispassion in adaptation to daily life; virtues which induce one-pointed application of the mind and heart to the goal of life; and keen desire to attain that goal. These are fundamental to all our endeavors, sacred and secular, and cannot be dispensed with. Time does not efface nor alter these eternal verities. In order to be aware of these verities, one has to realize the futility of relying upon changing phenomena and fleeting objects of pleasure, upon the elusive inner emotions and divisive thought process which perpetuate inner conflict and the consequent restlessness and unhappiness. Unless we realize the danger of relying on false values, we shall not seek true values. One who has discrimination, dispassion, virtues, and keen desire, yoga becomes delightful and fruitful. Occasional setbacks lose their depressing effect but act as stepping stones to greater effort and success. Om Shahana Bhavatu, Shahana Upanaktu, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om.